Hey kids, I'm your old pal Aaron Sagers from Paranormal Paparazzi and ParanormalPopCulture.com, and you are watching Scared.
Welcome to the Paranormal Investigator's Casebook, Volume 2. Now, previously we discussed some of what we feel are the fundamental principles of paranormal investigating. Foundation, repetition, experimentation. That's a great place to start. Now, we're going to continue to build upon that structure.
Collecting and analyzing our findings from a case is only the first step. So what's the next step? Confirmation. But how do we go about doing that? By working with other investigators in the hopes that their findings will help validate our own. And sometimes those investigators will reciprocate and enlist our help in working on their cases, as you're about to see from our visit to the Westminster Burying Grounds.
The Westminster Burying Ground was established by the First Presbyterian Church in 1786. Over the next 6 decades, the cemetery became the final resting place for Baltimore's elite, including high-ranking citizens, politicians, and dozens of veterans of the American Revolution and the War of 1812. One of the most recognized of those interred here is famous American author Edgar Allen Poe, following his sudden and mysterious death in 1849. Poe's original grave was part of a family plot located in the back of the property where the marker still remains today. However, in 1875, a new monument for Poe was erected in the front of the cemetery where he was reburied. In 1852, a church was erected on the property, built on a platform so as not to compromise the graves. It has also been alleged that grave robbing had taken place over the years, and the addition of an active church would help deter such activity. The church's congregation disbanded in 1977. Care of the premises was assumed by the University of Maryland School of Law. Under the sponsorship of the nonprofit Westminster Preservation Trust, the burying grounds were cleaned up and the church was renovated for public use as Westminster Hall. As with many cemeteries and burial sites, there have been numerous claims of paranormal activity that surround it. Reports of restless spirits who wander between the headstones, as well as strange echoing sounds calling out in the night.
Our host for the night was author Vince Wilson. He provided a lot of background on the location for us. A lot. We were glad he contacted us, and we were eager to get started.
I've been doing this for about approximately 11 years now. I originally started doing essentially urban legend hunts, and I knew this place would be very interesting to the scared crew because of the different stories, the ghost legends, and even some of the urban legends associated with it. And there's also been quite a few myths and misunderstandings that I think that the scared crew can help the general public know aren't true about the Westminster Burying Grounds.
We don't have time for a music video right now. This is too important. You remember what you learned in Volume 1. Foundation, repetition, experimentation. That's just the beginning.
So tonight there's a couple of things we're going to be checking out here at the Westminster Burying Grounds. There's a few urban legends we're going to be putting to the test. And there's a lot of interesting crawl spaces and catacombs and other things to look at here. So we're going to be flexing muscles from both disciplines, paranormal investigation and urban exploration.
People have seen the apparitions of luminescent and shadowy figures walking through the grave. And there has been reports of moaning sounds coming from the graveyard.
All right, here with Paul now. We're going to walk around the premises, see if he picks up anything. So, let's go.
Let's check it out.
You really think that, you know, if there are spirits and stuff, they're going to hang around where their bodies lay to rest?
Even if there aren't spirits, then it's just the electromagnetic energy that we leave behind. There's not enough presence in a graveyard. And specifically because it's a graveyard, you know, it's the home of the dead. So there aren't going to be people living their lives here to leave an impression.
Right, I would think, like, if there's a spirit or something like that, it's going to want to be where there's people.
Or where it's lived, or, you know.
Someplace that was important to it when it was alive.
Right. Well, think about it. How would you like to live your life locked in a closet? You know, no one else around you.
Well, you're talking to me. I mean,
well, okay, that's true. But most people, you know, you need to interact.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing to interact with in a graveyard.
That's why I'm surprised there's so many reports of paranormal activity in cemeteries. I just chalk it up to people watching too many scary movies as kids.
Well, one of the general theories in paranormal research is that perhaps on some occasions, when your grave is disturbed, your soul may come back in order to seek retribution or to set things straight.
You want to maybe head outside?
Yeah, I'm not getting anything from in here.
Okay.
One of the more interesting tales here at the Westminster Burying Grounds is that of the mysterious Poe toaster. On January 19th, the anniversary of Edgar Allen Poe's birthday, this figure goes back to Poe's original burial place and lays down before the burial stone there 3 long-stem red roses and a half a bottle of cognac.
I have a question for you, Paul.
Okay.
I see you touching something like you just thought, like you're touching headstones. Would you pick up emotions of people who have visited that grave, let's say? Is that possible? Or they had to physically touch the headstone?
It's possible. If there was a lot of emotion associated over a long period of time, which is why I'm actually looking forward to the gravesite of Edgar Allan Poe, especially considering the toaster. You know, because every year there might be something that he left behind.
Okay.
I'm not getting anything from it.
He's actually not even buried here anymore. He's actually buried out front, but this is where the toaster still comes every year.
Right, and the fact that I'm not getting anything from this makes it seem to me that the guy who comes isn't doing it out of respect for Poe. He's doing it now just because it's a show. You know, he's a showman and this is his job, this is what he does.
It is believed now, though, that the original Poe toaster is either retired or probably, more than likely, passed away, and that his son or another close friend or relative has passed on the legacy.
Really, the guy only comes once a year.
Yeah.
He's here for what, maybe 5 minutes. He leaves something and he,
You're right.
takes off.
Right, but if there was a lot of mourning behind, say he was one of Edgar Allan Poe's kids or grandkids,
Biggest fan even.
right, then he might leave a really strong impression. But there's nothing there.
It should be noted that 2009, the same year we investigated the burying grounds, was the final year the mysterious stranger came to pay tribute at Poe's grave. It's been 3 years and so far no one's come forward, so this is a mystery that most likely will never be solved.
Scientifically, I believe that what we think of as ghosts, and I do believe in them, are actually some sort of electromagnetic imprint or something along those lines, an energy field that has been, imprinted onto an environment or atmosphere.
What we have here is an experiment for movement of objects. You hear about that a lot in hauntings, where objects are thrown across the room. Well, we want to control that experiment. So now let's say you're dealing with a gambling ghost somehow. You've heard stories about gambling in the establishment you're at. Well, that gambling ghost wants to move this, moves it just slightly, and this goes off. The object's moved, and it's in a sealed environment. So this is a pretty good experiment, pretty good scientific experiment for controlling your environment and doing an enticement.
This also demonstrates something else that I like to tell people. You don't need to be Bruce Wayne to be a paranormal investigator. Some of the best equipment you can use is the simplest and the cheapest.
To put it simply, paranormal investigating is like showing up at someone's house unannounced. Either they're home or they're not. It's a roll of the dice.
This is pretty much what I expected. It was like a 0 reading. What's strange about that?
As far as any type of paranormal activity is concerned, it was a relatively quiet night, so we were unable to help validate those rumors. But there is a local legend which we were able to help set straight.
One of the areas that Scared has been given unusual access to tonight is the area of the catacombs here at the Westminster Burying Grounds that had been flooded in years past. Although no one are susceptible to floods, damage from those floods still remain to this day. During the flooding, the bodies in the graves rose from the ground due to the saturation of the water.
And there's an urban legend that says that there's an underground network of tunnels running beneath the entire city of Baltimore, and that this location is a hub for those tunnels. So we're going to go down there right now and check to see if those tunnels actually lead anywhere. Now, one of the main reasons that Vince called us in was to see if we could confirm the rumors of the tunnels beneath the burying grounds. Now, urban exploration being our expertise, this was right up our alley. These catacombs are not for the faint of heart or the tall of stature.
I was saying when we came in here, the left wall or the back wall looks original and old. And the wall that Greg is standing in front of, the bricks are definitely newer. So it looks like this was more recently boarded up or bricked up.
Right there, it would go right into the University of Maryland Law School on the other side of the wall.
How old is the law school?
Less than 30 years old, maybe. I have heard a lot of the legends and stories, but I haven't heard anything about them finding anything when he built the law school.
That would be a good question to ask, because definitely this goes beyond where we are right now.
Like it could have been walled off after the fact? Like there was a tunnel that went somewhere and they just bricked it off?
Well, right here you can see that there actually was an entrance that's walled off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is nothing beyond this wall.
out.
It could just be more open space that's there. Just for no
Let's go.
reason we'll ever know.
Let's go check out down the hall here. There's another entryway. We might find a tunnel or something. All right. I wish I could say that we got dirty and found something or made a discovery, but unlike Andy Dufresne, we came out dirty on the other side.
Well, we looked. You're not going to find the tunnels to Middle Earth or anywhere else under that cemetery.
Although we came up empty at the burying grounds, we were able to aid in dispelling a rumor about the city. Hopefully, this truth will help discourage gatecrashers and keep them from trespassing and tromping all over the grounds. And remember, just because an individual or a group cannot confirm activity, that doesn't necessarily invalidate your own evidence.
So you have evidence? Or maybe you only have more questions? Either way, consultation is an important part of the process. By consulting with experts and professionals in various fields, you can gain a specific insight into your case. You may also learn if there is a rational explanation of why activity is happening, or if there's no explanation whatsoever, like what happened to us at Approved Oil.
Located in Brooklyn, New York, the building that currently houses Approved Oil Company was built in 1931. Originally, for many decades, it served the community as a funeral home under various names, until the most recent, Trotska Funeral Home, sold the property to Approved Oil in 2002. Interior reconstruction transformed viewing rooms, coffin display areas, and chapels into offices, as well as 2 apartments which are currently rented. The embalming room, which was located in the basement, has been converted to office space where employees spend 8 hours a day answering telephones. Recently, however, accounts of strange activity and feelings of being watched have been reported by tenants and employees alike.
I've been working for Approved for 29 years, and our office has been in this building for the last 8, and I've lived in the building for the last 2.5.
Yes, I believe in ghosts. I think that there's something definitely here.
I've always felt there was something, and after I've lived here, I don't have a doubt anymore.
One time I was actually sitting upstairs on the 2nd floor, and I actually heard banging up against the wall, like if somebody was throwing chairs up against the wall.
I've experienced doors closing, voices knocking on doors, and nobody's on the other side of the door.
Usually a lot of the stuff that normally happens here is the calculators go crazy. They'll be off and numbers will show on them. I also felt like somebody was watching me from the kitchen, like they were just like peeking over at me from the kitchen.
One of the reasons I asked Scared to come in and investigate, not so much for me, because I don't need any convincing, but they're a group that wants the truth and seek out, is there something really there? Well, I think there is something really there, and hopefully they might share that experience with a lot of other people.
Knowing that it used to be a funeral parlor actually does kind of creep me out a little bit, but like I said, it only does to a certain extent now. I've gotten kind of used to it, and as long as nothing happens to me anymore, I'm completely okay with it.
Yeah, I would live in a place that was a funeral home. I mean, there's really no reason not to, except what? Superstition?
Regardless of our personal beliefs, as investigators, we'll always explore all the options available to us. Now, as you can see, this section of the basement has been converted into office space, but back when this was a funeral home, right through that door is where the bodies were actually received. So when a body arrives at a funeral home and doesn't come ready to be viewed, they have to do what they have to do to it. And down here you can still see a drain pipe. I wouldn't want this desk.
Alright, it's my opinion that a funeral home, you're not going to find any spirits. I mean, there's no reason for them to be attached here. It's not like they died here. This is just a transitional place between where they died and where their body's going to spend, eternity.
And right now I'm standing directly in what was that elevator shaft, the one that leads upstairs. The bodies arrive here, fixed out there, and then put into the elevator to go upstairs for the viewing for the families.
I do feel, however, that, there might be some emotion attached to a place like this because so many people have come to this place and grieved. But I don't think it's going to be any kind of intelligent spirit that you would make contact with. It would just be maybe a general kind of bad feeling about a place, if there is such a thing. Look, I already told you what I think about a haunted funeral home, but we decided to consult with John Zaffis, who over the last 40 years has investigated more than his share, and we value his insight.
Energy resides by the body for about 24 to 48 hours afterwards, and you have to remember, blood is the life force. It's drained from the bodies in these different types of locations. Can some of this blood remain in different locations and could be causing some paranormal activity? It's a good possibility. So I always recommend that the embalming room or the morgue itself actually be investigated.
Of any location down here in the basement, I'm the most curious about this drain, and I figure this might be a good place to try an EVP session, seeing as how this is the spot that the bodies arrive to. Now, of course, there might not be a spirit hanging around because it feels it needs to haunt this location, but this might have been a point of confusion for it. Where am I? What's going on? This is where maybe the feelings of fear that I'm dead, is that my body, might have come. This drain represents the last of your physical form draining away, your blood, all the humors in your body just going, and once your body's gone, you are just the spirit, supposedly. So, are there any spirits in here that wish to make contact with us? Please make your presence known. Do you know why you're here? Can you indicate your presence by making a noise or moving something for us? If you're still here, are you aware that you've died? EVPs are one of the most common pieces of evidence, but I don't always agree with what people put forward as being an EVP. That's why it's very important to tag your recordings during it. Is anyone down here? Like Brooke, can you please make your presence known?
Disregard Brooke walking into the room.
Did you hear a ghost?
If you hear a breath, a whisper, a bump, whatever it is, you've got to tag it so that you don't mistake it as evidence.
All right, here we are with Lisa Ann at Approved Oil, and let's see what she has to say about this place.
When we pulled up to the building, there's a door on the side of the building, and I kept seeing a man coming out of there. I keep getting the feeling, I don't know if it was a courthouse or like a place where immigrants came through or something like that, because there's something about like processing people. And when I kept looking at him, I'm not sure if he was in a jail uniform, but it was like he was being escorted. I just get a lot of traffic, like a lot of people coming through here, and it's like the library. There's not a specific spirit, but it's more psychic impressions, like a lot of people going through here. But I feel like I'm in a hurry, I'm nervous, and I'm kind of being hustled out for some reason.
Have any reason why people would be in this area?
I honestly have no idea at the moment.
Hearing Lisa Ann's impressions, people being processed, being escorted, being nervous. Yeah, sure, I can make all that fit into this location without stretching it too far, but that's still a little too vague for my taste. I prefer to get more specific information that can be properly researched later on.
I feel like I'm very nervous to come in here, and I'm just gonna keep harping on this paperwork thing, but I feel like I'm just hoping that I have all my paperwork in order, because once I come through here, I feel like I need to have everything right. So it's like I just got a very intimidated feeling when I walked in here.
Okay, well.
Intimidating.
I do believe this is like big boss's office, so, you know.
Yeah, no,
people
but
called
it's
into
not.
here, you
Yeah,
know.
no, but it's not that. It's these people, they're dressed like from the 1900s. They have their paperwork with them. Stand under here.
Okay.
Do you feel any difference? I don't know, maybe it's just the design.
Yeah, I
You
don't
don't
feel
feel
nothing
anything different?
physical.
Step out. And then step back in. You don't feel a difference?
No.
You're hopeless. It's just a very
Okay, so you feel
dizzying feeling in there, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any idea why you get that kind of feeling from something like that?
It might just be an energy thing. I mean, it's logically could just be the way they design the building is, like it's very cool here, and then that's like a little alcove, so you don't have the air conditioner, so the temperature feels different. I mean, I'm not feeling a spirit, I'm just feeling a definite shift when you step over there.
Very high EMF reading just from...
See, that's what I'm saying, like if there's a lot of, what are you doing? If there's a lot of like electric and stuff, and somebody's very sensitive, you're gonna feel that there's too much energy. So I'm not saying, you know, it might not be a spirit.
You're hypersensitive to the amount
Absolutely, absolutely.
The amount of EMFs and stuff.
Yes.
That I can totally buy.
Do you understand?
That I can totally buy.
What's important is when you start researching into these buildings, you got to find out, did people pass away there? What was on the property before? Was there anything that could have possibly transpired with the funeral parlor while it was in business? These are the things you have to dig into and check out to see if you can find out, was there something in that particular funeral parlor that triggered that activity?
Getting back to when this was a funeral home, my office was in Staten Island, and I came over here just to, they wanted me to help set up how this building, how our office arrangement was going to be. And what I found very disturbing was when I pulled up, we had some construction workers, and they were throwing urns into a dumpster. Now, I'm not thinking about spirits I'm just thinking about desecration, you know, something like that. Not knowing that 6 or 7 years later I was going to be living in the building.
A tenant living in a third-floor apartment corroborated reports of activity, yet declined to be interviewed on camera.
All right, here we are in the apartment on the second floor. This is Larry's apartment. Activity up here that has been reported have been cabinets opening and closing, sounds of mumbling in the bedroom, feelings of uneasiness in the rooms, also doors opening and closing.
And I'm sitting in my recliner watching TV, and I hear a knock on the door. I open the door, and no one is there.
We only have power in certain areas of the apartment. We only turned on one of the breakers on the circuit board because we figured, all right, that's less to trip the meter. and accordingly, I haven't gotten too many readings. Now, because this used to be a funeral home, the bodies would arrive downstairs, be prepped for viewing, and then raised in the elevator up here so that they could be wheeled out to the viewing area, out in the living room. They felt, why change is too much? They just turned it into a closet. And the report here has been that this closet door will open and close. It's a sliding door, but it's not one that's easily on its track, so it's not something that could just be, pushed and opened and closed. It's visibly difficult to close.
In the closet seems to be a very low base, 0.5, 0.6. Nothing really going on. So I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to see if it changes as I do an EVP session. So, were you somebody that was laid out here?
It's been reported that these cabinet doors open and close. It's kind of hot up here. It's a little humid. I wouldn't totally rule out warping of the wood, maybe just kind of affecting it so that they open a little bit, but they shouldn't open fully because they're on these weighted hinges. And if they do open, that'd be really interesting.
Out of the 20 funeral parlors that I investigated, I'd say maybe 9 of them had paranormal activity. But was it always just related to the funeral parlor? No. A lot of times people can move in and out of these places. People think, oh, funeral parlors are all haunted, but they're not. But people moving in, it can literally trigger paranormal activity.
The viewing room for the body was in the living room. Where the couch is represents where the open casket would have been.
Okay, it's off. Now it goes on. I'm getting a solid yellow reading wherever I look here. Yeah, it stops right here.
What do you think is doing it?
Like, is there stored energy from, I guess everyone's grief maybe? Actually not to say grief, but the emotion you would feel when one would be viewing a dead body. An ex-funeral home, you would think there would be a lot of energy, because even if the spirit itself wasn't here, those who cared were, and that would have to be a lot of energy.
In these types of locations where people are laid out to be exhibited or they're buried, it's a very collective type thing. What do I mean by that? People grieve. During the grieving process, you have a lot of people that come together. Man, that's a big concentration of energy. Can the law of recognition and attraction bring spirit in to these types of locations? Yes. That's why a lot of times you'll hear about spirit activity in funeral parlors and also in cemeteries.
And I just feel like I'm looking for something.
Okay.
I think she goes in and out of that room because I think she's very confused by that room. This one?
She goes in here.
Yeah, like I just keep seeing somebody looking under stuff and not sure like where I lost it, where it fell off. And I just feel like she just paces back and forth here, and that's what she's looking for, this piece. I'm almost seeing a locket that has like, I want to say it was pictures of her parents. And I just feel like really sad because I feel like that's the only thing I have that connects me with them. But I want to laugh because I know how crazy this sounds. But I feel like sometimes other spirits in the building are like helping her to try to find her locket. You know, I don't feel like these walls and everything are where they are supposed to be.
These walls are built after the
yeah, like I'm very confused. Like she's very confused, and that's why I feel like she's always like opening doors and moving things around because she's trying to figure out, like, this isn't the way it was, so where's my locket?
She's aware of the way this, floor is set up now.
Yes.
Okay. A spirit looking for something that it will likely never find. Could this be the cause of activity on the second floor?
So it's just a habit that I close a closet door. And after I did that, I noticed that it was popped open again, and then it was closed when I looked up again, but there was nobody there. I was on the second floor completely alone.
When I left this room, the chair was facing this way, because I put it that way. The air conditioner was pumping the whole time, and when we came in here, it was hot as hell. Oh, the light was on when I came in here, and I shut all the lights off on this floor, so.
That's effed up.
And I didn't turn on the light.
I mean, it could be explained, but I didn't touch the light, bro.
This is yet another reason to be very conscious of your surroundings. Sometimes our powers of observation and our five senses are all we have to rely on. And while we can't substitute personal experiences for evidence, sometimes that's all you walk away with.
Calculators on the second floor just started to take off by themselves.
The calculators will actually unplug from the wall, not having your feet anywhere near them.
Can you change the numbers on the calculator? How cool would that be?
I think it'd be awesome, actually.
Nobody's here. It's after midnight on a Friday night. There's a green light on the phone. The calculator is on. You could make the lights change on the phone right now. You could change the calculator. Do anything you want to do. There's a red light on the phone.
What does that mean? It means the call's coming in.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh my God. Wait a minute.
What?
We're not connected to the network right now. I can't get a dial tone. I can't even make a phone call. So it'll turn red 2 times. When it rings and somebody answers it, or when somebody picks up the phone to make an outgoing call. All right, okay, listen. That's what I asked you to do. I asked you to give me a sign. You did. Can you do that again?
That's pretty damn cool, I have to admit.
You got that on camera, right?
Yeah, I did. Something chills up my spine right now.
Now, we were able to document the experience, but where do we go from there? We felt it was important, as a matter of consultation, to speak to someone who works for the phone company, who will be able to better tell us if this is something that, yes, it does happen, or could happen, or no, this doesn't make any sense at all. This is illogical. It must be paranormal.
This is field technician Steve Bello, who's been installing and repairing phone lines for over 20 years. He came by to examine and discuss the odd phone occurrence at Approved Oil.
The system itself gets power, and if that dial tone was considered a rollover, which is you call the main line, then it would hop over to the other lines.
We're not connected to the network right now. I can't get a dial tone. I can't even make a phone call.
So thinking about it, if there's no dial tone on the main line, there's no way that the other lights are gonna light up. Unless the phone just went berserk, but I don't know why it would, you know? It's not like a power, it wasn't receiving power and losing power. Everything was, the light was remained green, so that means the line was up, so I don't know why it would just bounce over to the other ones.
Even though I've been doing this for 40 years, do I still consult people? Yes. You have to remember, you have to gain knowledge in this, and in knowledge there's power. So do I consult a lot of different people out there, spiritual people, experts with different types of items? Yes, that's key and that's important. Why? Because the more collective information you can get together and pull together to try to figure something out, to me that's more important. Why? You want to resolve a paranormal issue, and that's what counts.
I've never experienced that before. I've never experienced anything like that. 7. All right.
7 again. Maybe that's the spirit's lucky number.
Could be.
It's a hell of a coincidence.
That was weird.
In the 20-something years I've been doing this, definitely I've never seen anything like that. Not that I ever really monitored phone lines, but I gotta be honest, if I saw something like that, I'd be a little nervous.
Because we have approximately 100 lines here at Approved Oil. And 7 keeps blinking, and I said, oh well, maybe 7 is the main number, and that's the emergency call line.
And as a shout out to me, he flipped 2.
Right, and you know what was weird? It didn't go 7 blank 2. It was 7 and 2, which is what you said, 27.
Yeah, that was nuts.
So somebody's saying, yeah, well, light up number 7, and it lights up. I'm leaving. Send me my tools later.
That's pretty interesting.
There's nobody else in the building right now.
No, that's a fact.
Brian and
So
Chris,
Brian
there are no
downstairs.
workers in the building. Line 7 again. Line 7 again. I'm going to go investigate line 7.
I feel that consultation is such an important part of the process, mainly because, look, whatever your expertise is, you don't know everything. There's going to be someone out there who has more information than you do. And by talking to these people, we'll be able to find more pieces to fit into the puzzle.
During a second night of investigation, Brooke and Greg tried to get a repeat of the telephone activity on the second floor. Although the phone did not light up a single time, they did share a slightly different experience.
We're not supposed to be able to make calls out. We're not supposed to be able to get calls coming in. And we are also not able to access it.
Did you just hear that, by the way?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
I heard like a wobbling noise, like almost like a woman's voice. I don't think it was the air conditioner.
Oh.
Hear it again?
Yeah.
Like a woo.
Sounds like a wailing sound.
And we are also not able to access it. And we are also not able to access it.
There may be times where things are just unexplainable.
As far as funeral parlors go, it's no different than any other business or in home. You go in, do your investigation. And I always recommend to do it as natural as you can, because you will get a response if there is any type of energy residing in an old funeral parlor.
If an average Joe says there's no logical reason for activity at a location, that's one thing. You gotta take it with a grain of salt. However, if an expert concurs with that declaration, well, that gives a lot more weight to the claim. Now, having looked into it further and having that expert opinion, it's now ready to be entered into your evidence file.
No matter what method you use to investigate, whether it be spiritual or scientific in approach, you must always use discretion at every step in the process. Avoid jumping to conclusions and risk unnecessarily frightening or upsetting the public. Remember, these are people's lives, their homes, or their businesses, as was the case in the Colonial Inn in Concord.
On a plot of land owned by a founding father of Concord, Reverend Peter Bulkley, the original structure that was to become the Colonial Inn was built in 1716 by James Minot. In 1775, one of the inn's original buildings was used as a storehouse for arms and provisions. Upon the legendary warnings of Paul Revere, when the British came to seize and destroy the supplies, the Minutemen met them at the North Bridge on April 19th for what became the first battle of the American Revolution. During the first half of the 19th century, parts of the inn were used as a general store. The property also served as a residence, and in the early 1800s, the Thoreau family moved in. Author Henry David Thoreau resided there from 1835 to 1837 while he attended Harvard. Beginning in the mid-1800s, the building was used as a boarding house and a small hotel, named the Thoreau House. The property has been operated as a hotel since 1889. Situated on Monument Square, the inn is surrounded by landmarks of our nation's literary and revolutionary history.
We've been in business going on 300 years now, which makes us one of the oldest ongoing continually operating commercial sites in the country. We've seen an awful lot of people in and out of here in 300 years.
There was, some battles fought in the area. Part of the hotel was actually used as a hospital at one point.
April 19th, 1775, the British had come out of Boston. They got stopped at the North Bridge, which was right down the road, 5 minutes from here. The wounded and the dying from that battle and for the next year of the Revolution were brought to the original building at the inn for care. They didn't have hospitals or doctors or nurses as we know them today. We still operate as a community center. We do all the social groups here, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, the Chamber of Commerce. There's not a day goes on that we don't do a birthday, an anniversary, a bar mitzvah, a confirmation, a bridal shower, a wedding, a bereavement. People spend the most important times of their lives here. They bring in energy here. So either you come here and you leave energy, or you come here and take some part of it away.
Like many of the places we go to, the Colonial Inn has a lot of history. Our challenge is trying to separate what's just history from what could be causing the haunting.
I've definitely seen some things in the past that were, unexplainable.
You instantly know that something has happened, that's taken place, that's beyond your understanding.
The other front desk manager, she said that one day she was just talking with someone and that a few of the books actually fell off the bookshelf at the front desk for the gift shop.
I can't prove that it was a spirit, but you hear your name and you answer what? And there's nothing there.
I don't think the investigation's going to cause any extra activity. This place seems pretty active to begin with, so I think if there is things that are going to happen, it's going to happen regardless.
After we're done setting up our cameras and all of our stationary equipment, we like to take about 10 to 15 minutes for what we call quiet time. This is where we acclimate ourselves to a location by sitting and observing. This process will help you get in tune with your surroundings and make it easier to separate the natural occurrences from the unnatural. At the beginning of the investigation, we always do a baseline sweep. By noting the initial EM and temperature readings, you'll be able to determine if there's a significant change later on. In order to help keep a balanced investigation, I feel it's part of my job to accompany Lisa Ann on her walkthroughs. And even though we're friends, I'm not going to take her word as gospel.
Do we know if anybody died in this room, like hung themselves or killed themselves, or because there's a really energy in here?
Well, I'm gonna say
it's very dizzying.
I'm gonna say no. From what I know, there's no one that died or hung themselves, committed suicide.
Because it's very like as soon as you come over here, you're just really like woozy and nauseous and. But as soon as I walked through the door, I just felt like somebody, I don't know, again, a male. I don't know why there's all these males in here tonight. But again, this male energy and just very sad and depressed and like contemplating killing himself.
The information a psychic provides can often be a mixed bag. It may be accurate, but that doesn't mean it's relevant to your investigation.
If you bring a psychic pretty much anywhere,
right,
they're gonna sense things and they're gonna pick up on things. So if that was reasoning, it's like, yeah, the entire world is haunted.
Right.
To me, that just seems utterly ridiculous.
Right.
A little research beforehand goes a long way on any investigation. If you know what's been reported, you'll have an easier time trying to replicate the experience. Just be careful not to turn a blind eye to things that may not have been reported.
Room 24, that's the room where people feel the most energy, or they seem to see things or hear things or see things moving around.
It's reported in this room that back in 1966, a couple was staying in here for their honeymoon. And the lady woke up in the middle of the night. She saw a shadowy figure near the window. I did sleep in this room last night also, and I really didn't notice anything paranormal. I did see a lot of lights on the ceiling, but I realized it was from passing cars.
If it's been reported, it's always good to look into, but I don't accept it as fact. I always look for the common, logical explanation so I could put the wilder claims to bed first.
Well, when we were in here, we did a K2 session with Charlene and Ann, and we had the K2 on the right side of the bed, and it started going off in response to some questions. We kept remarking how freezing cold it was in here. So the K2 meter was going off, and when it stopped, we noticed that the temperature rose.
And at the time, the temperature was about 4 degrees colder around me than it was anywhere else. We were getting hits with the pendulum. Anne was doing the pendulum.
When I was using the pendulum in room 24, I really felt that I was connecting with a small child.
If there is a spirit in room 24, I believe it's intelligent because it responded to my questions with the K2 meter.
If there is anybody in this room right now, can you make the lights light up yellow or red?
If there are spirits here who would like to communicate, you can communicate through the K2, which is in my hand. If you move in front of it, it will register you as being there. And over here, I just got a flash of red. I don't know if you caught that on camera, but just like a flash, it went red and flickered and went away. Whatever it is, it's gone. That was definitely a flash. That's pretty interesting. It's not there now.
One random blip on an EMF detector does not a haunting make.
If that was you, can you do that again?
On and off, but...
That's my phone ringing. I wonder if that's why it went off. That could be it.
Going in and understanding the process is more important than getting your evidence. Why? At the end of the day, you need to have a better understanding of exactly what you're getting involved with and what you need to do.
In a situation like recording EVPs, you can choose your sampling rate on this thing and really broaden the spectrum of the frequency response that you get. So right now I've got it at a 48 kilohertz 24-bit recording. Basically what that means is it gives me about 24 hertz all the way up to 24,000 hertz, and that's below human hearing and well above human hearing. Because it's so sensitive, even just moving it around like this, you'll hear the wind across the microphones because they're so sensitive, which is ideal for picking up EVPs.
Now there are several methods by which you might want to collect EVPs. The way we usually try to go about it, have 2 recorders going at all times. One, recording everything. Set it down, hit record, walk away. The second recorder, you want to do short burst segments. Do maybe 2-3 minutes of recording, ask your questions, and then listen back right away. That way, if there is something responding, you'll get to ask follow-up questions right then and there, and not 2 weeks later when you review your evidence.
Now I hear, oh shit, wow.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
What is that exactly? You think?
Yeah.
Man's voice. I think it's trying to form your name, I think. It's like right here. Like you can see the quietness here and here, the size of the width, but right here, see how it gets wide? That's where it is. It's a little extra energy that comes in.
As always, I like to try different approaches to paranormal investigations, and even though I like to rely on my trusty EMF detector, I will always be first in line to try something that's either considered older, more reliable, or just different. And today, I'm going to be trying out the pendulum. This communication doesn't set off any EMF at all.
Right.
It's almost like it's not something that's here physically in front of us, spiritually in front of us, or any kind of energy. Just, how would you categorize that? Like universal energy, just, or is it all coming from you or us? person holding the pendulum?
I would say we're probably like a conduit rather than. I honestly don't know.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's
I'd like to have an answer, but I.
Sometimes we don't have the answers, and that's why we look. I feel a little weird using something that I didn't have to calibrate or put batteries into, but I'm going to keep an open mind and see if this pendulum works for me.
I don't even know if this will work for you.
Okay, how come? Is this personalized to the user?
I think so. That's what I've been told.
I guess that begs the question, do you need psychic or medium abilities to use a pendulum?
I don't feel that you really need a psychic ability to use those instruments. I think perhaps you need to have an open mind. And what I usually also try and do is keep my elbow braced against my body to minimize any kind of movement from my own arm.
Show me yes. Which direction is yes? And as before, it's left and right. Pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
Alright, check this out. I'm not even going to stop it. I'm going to ask, show me no. I'd like to see no, please. Yeah, look at that.
That was fast.
Did you get that? And we're getting clockwise. I have to say, I wasn't moving it, and I wasn't consciously moving my hand to change directions of the pendulum, but every time I asked it to, it responded. Now, was this my energy? Was this Anne's energy? Or was this something in the room controlling it? I don't know. Are there any spirits in the room with us right now?
Yes.
Let's knock it up a notch. So there are more than 5. Yeah, I'm getting for both of us, getting very strong yeses.
Yeah.
Mine is left to right, Anne's is up and down. Just in these couple of minutes, I gotta say I'm pretty impressed with what I've been able to do. And when I asked if there's more than 50, it's like, okay, I guess while that's possible, at the same time I can't be sure, and since I can't measure and my trusty EMF detector isn't picking up any of these 50 spirits here, I wonder what exactly, I'd love to break this down and get the values and the wheres and the whys and the hows, but I guess for this experiment,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Cool.
Pretty cool, I dig it. While it's interesting, it's definitely not a guarantee.
There are spirits present in this hotel. There are quite a few hot spots where most of the activity takes place.
And I actually had a complaint in this room. The person said that it sounded like furniture was being moved in the room above him. And then when I went and checked who was staying in that room, there was actually nobody in that room.
In the mirror, I could see a face right there. But when I turned around and looked at the wall, I could not see it. I think it's very good for psychics and the technical end of paranormal investigating to work together because we back each other up.
She tells me where to look, and that's where I find things.
I also go where they've told me, they've gotten EVPs, I get stuff, we help each other out.
Do you feel like there's any place more active?
I've been drawn to this corner, but also right in front of that fireplace. I keep getting drawn right back to that spot on both sides.
Where would you rather go?
Probably right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
This right here is called a Radio Shack hack. It's a method of communication that you ask a question and the spirits are supposed to be able to answer you or speak to you through this because it's randomly picking up words out of the various stations that it's cycling through. All right. Is there anybody here that wishes to communicate with us? What year is it? 188.
There's a lot of controversy with different types of equipment for communication. We have the hack box, the ghost box. It's called by a lot of different things. Do I give that 100% credibility? No, I don't give any equipment that. But when you're using these devices and you start to get information, you recognize the same voice coming through it, I pay a little bit more attention to that. There is definitely something communicating through these devices.
What is my name? Texas. I heard that. Yeah, I did too. I'm from Texas.
That's part of my identity. I've got Texas stickers on the back of my car. So I feel like, for me personally, that was a response.
What is the weather like? Do you try to scare the people that work here? What is your name? What do you think of James Minot? Killer?
It's important to record all of your spirit box sessions, because it's during playback will you be able to hear anything you may have missed.
What do you think of James Minot? What do you think of James Minot? Killer?
Again, you always must be careful, because spirit will play games and it will try to trick you.
I come on these investigations because I believe the spirits have a story to tell and there's something that they want to share. I'm not so much about proving they exist. I'm more about getting their story out and their word and what their life was about. There's 2 young boys that play up here a lot. They would be AHDH in this era, this day and age. Yeah, like bad. And I almost feel like I could hear them. Like people would say that they hear them, like talking. Because I almost feel like they're outside the rooms, like whispering to each other, like plotting things that they're gonna do for fun, and they like playing gags. Yes, very mischievous.
A lot of the folks that were here had told me that they heard their names called, they felt touches on their back, they would feel a cold draft here and there.
I've heard some weird things that I can't explain.
I wouldn't be surprised if sometimes people get an uncomfortable feeling on this side of the building, especially women, because he just has a very terrorizing energy about him. He's very young, and I feel like he's very driven, and I feel like he's very vicious, and he's like more feared than he is respected. And he's like on a mission, and I just see in these huge maps. And I know this is totally insane, but there's a dog in here too. There is. I can't help it.
There's a ghost dog in here?
There is.
Oh, is it a poodle?
No, it's a big dog, like a German Shepherd.
What's he doing in here? Is he here because of the other person?
I think he was with the guy, yeah.
Use your discretion when following a psychic lead. Often, what they report can't be confirmed for various reasons. Without proper documentation to back up their story, that's all it is, a story.
I've walked around with our psychic, Linda Marie, and I've gone back and researched the information that she's gathered, and I found a lot of stories that sort of match up what she had been saying.
At one time, it was a surgery. It looked like a surgery to me, or a place where they would do surgeries. I thought at first they were repairing people, helping people. I saw, the countertop with all the bottles and all the instruments, and I saw the table here. But as I watched what was going on and communicated with this man that was walking around the table, I realized what he was doing was autopsies. And that's why it was up here on the 3rd floor, because I couldn't figure why would they want to bring say wounded soldiers in and take them up to the 3rd floor. It's just a lot of work. Why don't you take them downstairs? But he didn't want to be seen. He was trying to be discreet and inconspicuous.
And Oliver Wendell Holmes was in charge of procuring cadavers for Harvard Medical School, which actually spent a year here. They moved Harvard School from Cambridge and brought it here to Concord for a year.
And he pays Tinker to get the bodies. Tinker goes and digs them up for him.
I didn't find anything with Tinker.
These were people that were poor, that nobody would have even looked into what happened to them after. They were really, really clever about who they stole for bodies.
It is a known fact that body snatching did occur in the 17 and 1800s. People used to dig up corpses and sell the cadavers to medical schools for study. Was that what happened here? Well, being that the practice is illegal, we're not going to find any records on it.
I don't get a bad energy in here, but I can't breathe. And I feel this like hacky lung coughing thing, but I keep feeling like I'm pacing the floor. Again, and I'm not getting a bad feeling from this person, but I think sometimes people may pick it up as somebody who's negative, but it's not, the person's not negative. It's just because he's sick.
So they might pick up on the same
Yeah,
thing.
so they might misinterpret it and get like, oh, there's an evil spirit in the room that's trying to scare us. He's not trying to scare you. He's trying to like clear his lungs and be able to breathe, and that's what it is. And I think people may see dark images sometimes, but again, I get the darkness is not a negative thing. It's just the darkness because of the illness, whatever this illness this person had.
Lisa Ann just brought up a good point. A person may experience a symptom like the shortness of breath. That doesn't necessarily mean that the spirit is evil or malicious or trying to harm you in any way. So use discretion before you jump to conclusions and call everything a demon.
I have never heard a story here about evil or being afraid or somebody, malicious spirits. That doesn't even enter into my thoughts.
Nothing has seemed dangerous. It's always just been things being moved or sounds that we couldn't explain.
Now, we have investigators going in, guests going in, the people who work there. There's a lot overlapping. So when we, as investigators, come to the management and say, look, this is what we found, discretion is so important because this is going to affect everything that comes after we leave.
Today, with a lot of the paranormal groups out there, one word of suggestion I have, please be careful before you start saying there's demonic activity in any location. Why? Once you plant that seed with an individual, it's very hard to correct.
I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I'm not here. Anyway, not that I have seen, and I hope I never do see those kind of spirits.
Once that seed is planted, the law of recognition and attraction, you can actually bring in more negative energy than positive energy, so you got to be very careful.
As we continue to seek out answers, sometimes that just leads to more questions. Investigating the paranormal is not as easy as solving a math equation. It's impossible to account for all the potential variables and unknown values.
Sometimes there's just nothing to find, and that's okay. By adding confirmation, consultation, and discretion to your process, well, this will help demystify some of those unknown variables. So until next time, stay scared and never stop searching.